Hello and welcome to RCD ShareNet. I'm Dave Thompson, Community Outreach Coordinator, and this is our ongoing Active April. Videos every Wednesday, information about how to get active in the community with adapted sports, adaptive movement, adapted anything. And as always, we have the Disability Foundation here to tell us about their the third in the series, and this is BC Moss, which is BC Mobility Opportunities Society. I had to memorize that because I kept on forgetting it for some reason. And I will introduce Eric to tell us more about that. And hopefully, you have some really strong friends to carry you.
Yes, well, the great thing about BC Moss is we have, there's a number of opportunities. So we're definitely going to cover those. But already, let's give a thumbs up to Dave because I know he did practice that title and he wanted to get that. So, as he said, the British Columbia Mobility Opportunity Society, and that's why we call it BC Moss for short because that is quite a mouthful. So, thanks again, Dave. I hope you're doing well. I hope this April has treated you all right so far, and people are staying as active as they can under the circumstances. So, just like I did before, I'm going to share a PowerPoint. So I'm just going to go into Zoom here, and I'm going to go share. We're going to make sure I turn my sound on. We're going to hit this. I will hit this screen actually, because then you can see everything that I see, and away we go. So here we are in full screen. Hopefully everybody can see. And again, a lot of this, as always, it's your choice to get involved. What Dave provides here is a platform where you can learn about programs that might be familiar to you. I know sometimes I do these presentations and people will say, I've heard of you guys, but I've never done it. And so maybe you hear it this time and you think maybe it's for me. And of course, we're very aware that COVID is around. And so you need to do what's comfortable for you. But definitely, let's get into it. So this is our trail rider. And as Dave said, the person with the disability will be, or who's non-mobile, however you want to refer to your challenge, can be sitting in the trail rider here. It does have a kickstand and it's got a wheel on the bottom. It's got handles front and the back. Now it's durable aluminum. So I always tell people it's not as heavy as it looks. You could actually lift the front. The front is not hard to lift up, but the key is to work together and keep it steady if you had somebody sitting in it. Now, as you can see, there's different paddings and cushions. So if you were to ride in this and you had your own mobility device and there's a cushion that you like, the cushions are just Velcroed onto the trail rider. So what you can do is you can remove those cushions and put yours on, provided it's similar to the size of the seat. Now, if you wanted the seat shrunk, what we have is an insert that we would put in, and that kind of narrows the seat. It makes it smaller. If you were taller, we would move the footrest down. Sam Sullivan's been in the trail rider, and he's over 6 feet tall. And then, of course, we do kids hikes as well. And we have the wheel on the bottom so you can be lifted up and over things. We do provide safety straps as well. You're going to see a picture of that. And the armrests are adjustable too. So every hike that happens, we won't be heading out until you're comfortable. So we also have a headrest attachment we can put on, additional foam. Now, last year we had a shortened season and we did a lot of our hikes in Pacific Spirit Park. Dave's probably been reminding you, and one of the things that you still can do is get outside. We can social distance outside, you can breathe fresh air outside, and that's really important for mental health. I know that I'm working from home and I need to remind myself, get out there every now and again and breathe fresh air. And it's kind of nice if you are by yourself, you can maybe take a couple of quick breaths without a mask on, and or be out in the sunlight. And it's supposed to be sunny all this week, So that's always a positive thing. I know that's a mentally positive thing for myself. So if you were out in the trail rider, and you can see we have kids days, so some people say, can kids participate? Could my family come along? Yes, your family could come along. We've had what we call Sherpas, or those who operate the trail rider, who are of teen years. So, if you wanted to get your teenager outside and active, get them to take you on a hike, and you can choose where to go. Usually, it's a good idea to start out doing hikes that are half an hour to an hour. Now, you might be saying, well, what's going to happen with COVID? Well, again, what happens is that we won't be offering as many locations, and we'll be doing less hikes per day, because in between the hikes, the equipment's wiped down. And again, I want to show a fun PowerPoint with smiling faces, right? This is about connecting. So every picture you see, just imagine wearing a mask. And I always figure you get enough of that in your everyday life, but you can just picture people with masks on, the COVID protocols, social distancing. And the great thing is, if you're out in the outdoors, you can spread out. So obviously, this was non-COVID times, so 3 people hike together. Hiking is a very social activity. And the other thing I should mention with BC Moss is it's not about going fast. It's about connecting with nature. So no one's going to race you. No one's going to make you go fast. It's really about connecting. Sometimes there's stops for lunch breaks. And in this picture, the one staff member we had is the fellow standing behind the girl in the pink shirt. So that means everybody else was either a family member or volunteers. So it is really about interacting. When you go on a nice walk with somebody, it's a great opportunity to have a great conversation. That's what BC Moss can be all about. Sometimes people talk about the outdoors and flowers and other things they want to do in the summer. Sometimes people talk about movies. Have you seen this movie? Have you eaten at this restaurant? So lots of conversations can happen and friendships can happen. Now, you heard me mention previously about the safety straps. So you see here, the fellow in the middle, he's got one across his chest. The girl's got one across his chest. We can also put one, around your legs. Again, we can add additional foam. It's all about being comfortable. And you might say, well, what's the cost of this? So the cost is $10. And what's the plan for this year? Well, the plan for this year is a lot like last year, hiking in Pacific Spirit Park. If you don't know where that is, it's near UBC, and you can get there by taking the number 33 bus to UBC or the number 25. The number 25 starts in Burnaby, where I live, and it'll take you right outside the park, and our staff can meet you there. If you're not able to transfer, we have a lift. The staff, are trained on the lift, and also the volunteers that give a watchful eye, and we will lower you into the trail rider. And at Pacific Spirit Park, what we have is we have this trailer. So if you're in the trail rider, then what happens is we safely lock up and secure your mobility aids. So if you're in the trail rider and you're thinking to yourself, what's going to happen to my wheelchair or walker, we would lock that up and secure that for you, and you could safely go on the hike. And then we'd obviously, of course, come back, and then your chair would be there, and we'd help you transfer out. The activity is $10, and again, we are hoping to do as many hikes as we can in Pacific Spirit Park. There's picnic tables there. We're going to also offer hikes down to Spanish Banks. I do want to show what is possible in the trail rider, and again, COVID allowing, we might get back into offering hikes in different locations. Now, one of the things that people love to do is go to the North Shore. Beautiful hikes there. I have been in the trail rider myself a number of times, and the hike that made me fall in love with the trail rider was this one out at Lynn Canyon Suspension Bridge. Because if we're sitting down, what happens? We have to look up all the time, right? We have that vantage point of always being in a sitting position. But when we're in the trail rider, we can get outdoors, we can look over things, we can change our perspectives. And that's always a good thing to do. You know, whether you learn something new or you have a conversation with somebody, you can always change perspective. And we always want to see the world from a different perspective when we're out in the wilderness. So in this picture, you can see when Dave said, hopefully you have some strong people. So these people are pretty fit here. So we have a person in the front, they're leading the way. Every journey needs a leader. So the person in the front, that's our leader. And the person in the people in the back, they're keeping the balance. They're, you know, in life, you need balance. We're going to help keep you upright. And again, you can see in that picture, the rider's got their arms on the armrest, head leaning back against the cushions, and she's got the waist strap on. So as safe as you want to be. And again, it's all people powered, so very environmentally friendly. We're proud of that. Now, I don't want you to worry. We're not expecting you to go to Everest, but I just want you to know where the trail rider has been. I always like to say the trail rider is durable enough to go to wherever you want to go. Now, I have not been to Everest, but the trail rider's been there a number of times. I have not been to Mount Kilimanjaro, but the trail rider's been there a number of times. I also haven't been to the Grand Canyon, but perhaps we've all seen pictures, or maybe some of you have gone on that trip. Well, the trail rider's also gone there too. So the connection to all of these is people would rent a trail rider, and they're adventurous and they're, you know, wanting to get out there. So how this trip came about, the person in the trail rider, she was turning 50 years old. And, you know, when I'm 50, I probably want to celebrate with, you know, a cold beer or a good meal or who knows, but she wanted to celebrate getting out to Everest. And so these are her two sons. And so they went out on this trip. And then when you go on these hikes, you have what's called Sherpas. So that's the term that we use when they're hiking. And they had people of the local area, local Tanzanian Sherpas, help them on the journey. Now, they didn't go all the way to the top, but they did get to base camp. And you can see her sons are pretty fit there. And also the rider, for those who say, well, if I'm along for the ride, what am I really doing? Well, if you're on a longer trip, and you might know this from if you have to sit in your wheelchair longer, that still takes an effort, right? To maintain our concentration. So if you're in the trail rider, you're taking in the world, you can verbally engage and encourage your Sherpas. And if you're on a longer trip, it does take some stamina to sit in something that you're not accustomed to. So that's an effort in itself. Again, it's only $10 to participate. A lot of our hikes are accessible by public transit. We do require you, just like we talked about previously with sailing and DSA and our other programs, our goal is that if we provide the program and you can get yourself to the location, then we will help you on the fun and the journey and the experience that you want to have. But a lot of it is accessible by transit. It's only $10. And last year we offered longer hikes on the weekends on Sundays where you can start in Pacific Spirit Park and then go all the way down to Spanish Banks along the beach. So that hopefully we can offer those excursions again. So you've heard me talk for a while, and you heard me mention, that I was in the trail rider. So just to prove that I was, this is a hike that I was on a number of years ago, and I'd always heard about this hike out in Deep Cove, out in Quarry Rock, and the volunteers, because we have volunteers that really like to feel needed, and they like to get a workout, and they'd always talk about, Quarry Rock, that's a good one. And anyway, I said, well, I'll do this hike, because we were going to film the experience, so it was going to be a longer day, and I've done longer hikes. So I said I was up for it. But as you're going to see in the video, even I was surprised by how many stairs there were. But luckily for me, as Dave said at the beginning, I had some strong people.
You did the hike with Sam yesterday too? Yeah. A little bit more. How you doing, Eric? Good. All right.
Got a feeling and I'm gonna feel it out. It got me shaking up and moving around. From the birches to the blacktop. We want it all. We want it all. Don't stop. Don't quit.
just as an aside, out at Deep Cove, so it's free to go there, and you can see we weren't alone. But there we are at the top of the rock, and we stopped there for lunch. And around that area, because it took us a while to get back, so I've honestly never been, and I regret it because people kept talking about it. But apparently, there's great donuts in Deep Cove. I think it's called Honey's Donuts. So I don't know if you've ever tried it, but believe it or not, honest and truly, I was in the trail rider that long, and we went there and back the same day, and I didn't even have the donuts. So I can't tell you for sure if they're good, but people keep talking about it, so that must be the case.
I have heard of that myself.
So, well, there you go. So now, but have you had them yourself, Dave?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. So, but between the two of us, we've heard about it, but we can't verify.
Because if I mention donuts, then everyone just reminds me of the 20 pounds I lost on Mindset Go, and I can't go anywhere. So,
well, there you go. There you go.
So Eric,
So-
I had a couple questions pop up into my mind while the video was going on.
Sure.
One thing is that we're starting a new club next week called Photo Sharing Club. So this may be an opportunity to combine. Some people might get some really good photos. Just wanted to sort of mention that.
Yeah. So we'd love for people to take photos, and people have taken photos
Right.
on the hikes. That can be part of your
And
journey.
of course, there's lots of space to put like a GoPro and that sort of stuff, right?
We do have mounts for cameras as well. On it's what they call either PVC piping or flexible gooseneck. You can
Right.
attach it to the trail rider, and I mean, many hikers, just cell phones are so good now. You can carry your cell phone in your hand, and the Sherpas will help put you on the kickstand, hold you still, and you can
Take a shot.
take all the pictures you want.
When the adjustments that are made, do they take very long, or is it good to tell people ahead of time?
Well, everybody's different and unique,
Yeah.
and if you're in there for the first time, so everybody's body is different, and it all depends on how we feel. So what I would say is that, like with a lot of our programs or a lot of trying something new, give yourself, come early so that you can get transferred over, and you don't, our staff are trained not to rush. And if you need to adjust during the ride, that's okay too. People will ask you, and it's not to pressure you or anything like that, but people ask, do you need to change position? How are you feeling?
Mhm.
And, I know when I'm on a longer hike of 2 hours or more, I might need to change my position. I might want to bring the chair so I'm sitting more forward. I might want to lean back. I might want to change my armrests. You might need different foam. So really, it depends on the person, but can't stress this enough. It's like anything else in life. If you're not comfortable, you're not going to get the full level of enjoyment.
Right.
And that's not what you want, and that's not what we want as a program. So this is just one aspect, though, of BC Moss.
Right.
Because we did hear from our members, okay, the trail rider's great, but I want to exercise and I want to work out. And a number of years ago, about 5 years ago now, we, being BC Moss, was fortunate enough to get a call and say, we have some room available down at False Creek where the paddling happens. So when you think of False Creek, if I say Science World, lots of people know where that is. So that's the False Creek area. If I say the seawall, I love the seawall. It's one of my favorite places in the city. So if you were going along the seawall during the summer, you would see this big sign that says BC Moss Paddling. So we're paddling in that body of water. Or if I say the aquabus, you can see the aquabus is in the background. So that's where the paddling takes place. It is just a couple blocks away around the seawall, or a few minutes away, however you want to say it, from the the Science World SkyTrain station. So if you know where Science World is, and then you get off, you can certainly, and to get down to paddling, there's ramps, of course. So, and then the staff will meet you. So, like all of our equipment, it's been modified. You can see the front of the kayaks have been opened wider, so it's easier for transfers with either if you're pivot transferring yourself, or if you're using the hoist. The other thing people like about the kayak is when you're on the water, nobody can tell if you have a disability or not. There's no
So
wheelchair.
you're all hidden, right?
Yeah, there's no wheelchair, there's no walkers. You're just a person out there in a kayak. Now, the orange thing is behind our staff member there, the lady giving the wave, that's pontoons. So remember we talked about sailing and how it had a 300-pound weight, it's not going to tip. Well, we don't want you to tip in the kayak either. So it has pontoons, we're going to keep you upright. The paddling happens for an hour. And again, it's $10 as well. And you can definitely go with somebody. And it's do what you can, meaning that if you're tired, take a break. And if you're saying, I can't really grip really well, that's all right. I have some limited mobility myself on my right side. So these gloves here, if you put those on, they will clip onto the paddle. So we have adaptions. You put the glove on. The glove serves as holders, and then you can paddle as best you can, and then you can rest the paddle when you're tired. Now, again, everybody's going to be wearing masks and things, and you need to, again, this is all about you feeling comfortable. So that's kayaking, and then along with kayaking, that's what we call it the paddle center. We also offer paddle boarding. So I don't know if you've done paddle boarding before. So you see the paddle board and you see the empty wheelchair sitting there. And remember I said it's right near Science World. So there's Science World in the background. And it's an awesome, the seawall is an awesome place to be in the summertime. You can see kind of the beauty in the background. So how does the paddle boarding work? Well, it's got a weight limit on it of 340 pounds, and it's got pontoons as well, so it's not going to tip. I should mention that the paddle is about 1.5 pounds, fairly lightweight, and you're paddling in between the board and the pontoon. Now, a staff will be right beside you. If you want to get out there and get paddling, you'll be given a life jacket, and you'll need to use the wheelchairs that we provide, just because we know that works with the weight ratio of the board. So for example, for a power chair user, you don't want to put a power chair on the board because the board's going to start to sink. And again, we want to keep you upright. So if you can paddle yourself, that's great. And if the weight ratio works out, we will help you paddle as best we can or have the best experience we can. But
and those boards have grooves for the wheels, I noticed.
They do.
Yeah.
That's right. So what happens is, again, you're given a life jacket and a safety strap, and then we do want to secure the chair to the board. And people will say, is that safe? And I say, well, you have pontoons on. You have a life jacket on. You have a staff right next to you. Well, what isn't safe is to put something on wheels that's going to be moving back and forth on the water.
Changing the weight.
Yeah, definitely your chances of going off the board are far, far more likely if the chair is moving. So we do secure the chair, and then you can be on the water for about an hour. And again, it's about getting out there and giving it a try, but that's how paddle boarding works. And I do have a little video for that as well. So as you can see in that video, everybody has different abilities. One of the guys there was a former wheelchair basketball player, so he's super.
That's my friend Richard.
Yeah, he's got a strong upper body. Richard's well known in the community, so he could probably paddleboard all day and not break a sweat. And then you saw there was somebody younger there giving it a try, and it's your own journey, right? It's just like at the Richmond Center for Disability. You know, you take in the information that you want, you take a course, and you get out of it what you want. So it's not a competition. Most often, the paddling sessions will be with you and the staff. That was just kind of a fun little video just to show how it works.
How was the access down there for parking and that sort of stuff?
Yes, well, so it's right next to the community center that's there. Now things have gotten a little bit more complicated because with COVID, it's closed. But in a non-COVID world, the community center is right there. The Falls Creek Community Center, they're very welcoming, and the wheelchair washroom is right there. The seawall is one of the most accessible parts. If you go on the walking paths, it's quite smooth. And then there are ramps all the way down to the paddling center. And the ramp that we're going to advise you to go on is a lot less steep. And if you need help, the best thing to do is the paddling staff have a number and you say, hey, I'm on my way down. Can you meet me at the top of the ramp? So I find it quite accessible. And again, if you need help, please ask and we'll help you as much as we can.
And you've got, the other thing is when you're in Falls Creek here, you've got a lot of wind protection as well.
Yes.
So
that's the other thing that we like about paddling is it's a lot less windy than Jericho Beach or in the ocean though. The waters are much calmer. So, you know, lots of our clients love the experience and nobody feels overwhelmed. We don't do the activities during the dragon boat races. So when the dragon boaters are really going, we kind of take a hiatus when they're doing their regattas. But, you know, when you're on the kayak or the paddleboard, when you're in the kayak or on the paddleboard, you may see a dragon boat team. But when they do their major regatta and they're racing back and forth, we won't be doing activities. And, you know,
that whole area is usually shut down pretty much, isn't it?
Yes. We want it to be as safe and enjoyable as possible. This is true of all of us. We all had hoped by now that the COVID numbers were going to be better than they are. And so just like everybody else, we're playing it day by day, but nothing is more important than your safety. As we talked about at Jericho Beach, when we're on a facility that we share, like the docks at Falls Creek, we have full COVID protocols in place. So you will be asked to wear a mask. There will be hand sanitization. There will be gaps in between the activities. And we spent money on buckets and buckets of hand sanitizer to wipe things down and things like that. So it, you know, that'll be our first priority is your fun and your physical safety when using our equipment. And then of course the COVID is another layer that we think about. So this has been BC Moss Paddling. You can find out more just at bcmoss.org, and I can put that in the chat.
Yes, thank you.
So that was all my material for this society. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask of me?
Have you ever tried using sails with the kayaks yet?
Not yet.
Oh.
No, we have not used sails on the kayaks. And I will say that kayaking is a more popular activity than the paddleboarding.
Right.
Probably people kayak 3 to 1, I would say, than being in the paddleboard.
That would be for me. Of course, I'd like those outriggers because I tried paddleboarding, but I never stood on it.
Yeah.
All right, Eric. I think that's a great invitation or explanation of BC Moss. And I want to thank you for being here today on Active April. And we'll be back for our last segment in this whole series. And that will be talking about the Vancouver Adapted Music Society. Look, I got that one right off my tongue. Smooth.
There you go. Excellent.
So thank you very much. And we'll see you again on the ShareNet for Active April. Bye-bye now.